Welcome to Becoming Limitless. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking. I'm going to teach you how to eliminate brain fog and upgrade your health so you can have more productivity, energy, and growth in your business. I'm your host, Tanessa Shears. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the Becoming Limitless podcast. Ooh, today is a juicy episode for you. We are talking about circadian rhythms. We're going to be talking about it so that you can unlock entrepreneurial success, because I fundamentally believe that when we work from an optimized circadian rhythm, we show up to our businesses entirely differently. And you will know if your circadian rhythm is optimized because everything will feel easier, from sleep to energy to weight loss to appetite to hitting your workouts to thinking clearly to having better ideas in your business. Like, this is going to be quite an episode. I've got a lot to say. I imagine it's not going to be the shortest, but hang with me, because I really feel like if we can understand all about circadian rhythms and how they can impact our brain, we just literally, like I said, we can unlock an entire new level of success in our life, our health, and our businesses. So it wasn't too long ago that I was experiencing what we're going to call circadian rhythm disruption. It was a couple of years ago, before I even knew about this word, and I'm going to define it for you, so don't worry. But I was going to sleep at different times, like most people, right? You know, one night was 9 o'clock, one night was 10 o'clock, then an 11, and then a 10, and then a 1, just kind of all over the place. And I was scrolling on my phone before bed, like most of us, or just doing one last quick check, or watching a YouTube video, or planning my day tomorrow, watching TV, sleeping on a heating pad. All of these things that I did not know were so disruptive, but I would wake up tired every day, right? And here's the thing. I would wake up tired and always need an alarm clock to wake up. And I used to think that 7 a.m., my wake up time, was so early. And I even have clients that I'm working with now that 7:30 feels really early. 7:45 feels really early. And it's just like I never felt refreshed, and I always felt like I needed more sleep. And then I learned about my circadian rhythm, right? And it started, I used to just think it was to do with sleep and like what time you went to bed and what time you woke up, right? But now I understand that it is so much more than sleep. It's understanding the information you are feeding your brain and your body from the outside world, and how all of these things impact your entire functioning of your brain and your body. Like, it's insane. Now I find I get drowsy at the exact same time. Like, I can pretty much be like, oh, I know what time it is right now. I know this feeling. And I fall asleep, within 5-10 minutes of hitting the pillow. I stay asleep all night. My aura scores on my ring are regularly in the 90s. Like, if I have a night of sleep that dips below 90, I'm like, weird, what happened last night? And it might have just been a night that the baby woke us up. Or, we were celebrating the night before and we had a late meal. But rarely do I ever get scores below 90. And on top of that, now I never need to use an alarm clock, which is so much better for waking up clear and focused, right? Alarm clocks, most of the time, there's like a 55% chance that you're going to be woken up in the middle of a dream. And that creates sleep inertia. That's that groggy feeling where it feels like you need so much energy and coffee to kickstart your brain. So we don't want to be starting our days like that, and alarm clocks do that. So by regulating my circadian rhythm, I don't need to use it anymore. I wake up effortlessly between 5 and 5:30 a.m. in the morning now, and I'm ready to go. I've had enough sleep. My body wakes me up. And this has had a huge impact on my business, because now I am able to jump into work right away. And I am in a season of my life right now in which I need to harness these hours, those productive hours, first thing in the morning before my kids wake up, and I don't want to waste them feeling drowsy. And I cannot afford, all those morning work hours to being lost to poor sleep, right? And I started showing up a lot clearer on my calls. Like, this was a big thing. I noticed that I was listening differently with my clients. I was coming up with better solutions. I was becoming a better coach. I had the energy to do extra trainings and programs and attend conferences and workshops. and I was making much better and faster decisions. So if something came on my plate, I was able to like make a decision on it, move on. If I wanted to do a launch, I'd make decisions on what would happen when, and I'd move on. I had none of that like pushing it off and down the road and try it another time, right? And I stopped wasting so much time feeling foggy and getting going in the morning. You know, when you just kind of like push it off to the next day, the task, or you didn't get everything done because you were so distracted, like those days rarely happen. They do once in a while. I'm a human, but they rarely happen. And one of the things that I really noticed is I feel really light and healthy and energetic. And I think that that is such a cool thing to go into my business with. And I like to show up like that. And I want to be an example of what it looks like to be a very successful business owner and taking care of my health at the same time. Like I want to model that, right? So a lot of this is because of how I treat my circadian rhythm. So today, our whole topic is going to be about how you as an entrepreneur can improve your energy and your productivity by optimizing your circadian rhythm. Now, before we jump in, this episode today is sponsored by my brand new program called the CEO Sleep Lab. It's a program designed specifically for 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs just like you who want to recharge your mind and your body with cutting-edge techniques, wearable technology, and biohacking, and you want to do it in less than 90 days, right? It's the culmination of the work that I have been doing with entrepreneurs and sleep for the last 4 years and is a combination of coaching and course. And it's designed to have you waking up well rested, ready to start your day after having a really good night of sleep. And also you're going to learn how to optimize your circadian rhythm at a level where you are going to feel so in control of your decisions and know exactly how to fire your brain up. So in this program, you're going to learn my entire system from start to finish on how to biohack your evening routine, optimize your circadian rhythm, fix your bedroom, your morning routine, learn how to do it all in the right order, broken down and simple. So with a combination of one-to-one strategy calls and a step-by-step video training program, and don't forget Voxer access, that's just a messaging app so we can go back and forth between coaching calls and refine everything we're doing. This is an offer you won't want to sleep on. So it actually opened for enrollment yesterday. There's going to be 5 spots available for opening week, although I am recording this ahead of time. So by the time you listen to this, I don't know how many of those spots will be left, but I do want you to know that I'm offering some pretty amazing deals for this initial launch, including 25% off for the first 3 people that enroll, a 60-minute bonus fast start focus call with me so that we can strategize, and a personalized roadmap. And I'm going to customize the action strategies for you to get good sleep. So I created this program to give 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs like you the tools and guidance you need to make lasting changes to your sleep habits during even the busiest seasons of your life. Like there is no time that you are too busy to work on your sleep. I have optimized the program for you. So if you want to learn more about this program, book a call with me at TanessaShears.com/call. The link will be in the description, or jump into my DMs on Instagram and let me know you're ready to go. So if this is the year you want to optimize your sleep, let's work together in the CEO Sleep Lab. So let's jump into all of our talk on circadian rhythms, and you can see how important they are going to be for your business. So let's talk about what a circadian rhythm is, right? And what's its role in regulating sleep and hormone production, bodily functions, and all of that, right? So circadian rhythm is basically your body's internal clock. Your body follows a 24-hour, actually it's 24-hour and 15 minutes, this body clock. And it is one of the factors that governs like when you wake up and when you get sleepy, right? So that's like you generally wake up in a ballpark time and you generally go to sleep, right? Well, that's not magic. That's your circadian rhythm that has been programmed genetically for you to go to sleep and wake up at relatively similar times, right? And it applies to so many functions in our bodies. Like I had no idea how many things followed these rhythms. And I'm talking like this, like, did you know that your heart rate is higher at a certain time of the day and lower at a certain time of day? Did you know that you breathe faster at certain times of day and slower? Did you know that your temperature is higher at certain times of day and lower at others? Your blood pressure, your sleep rhythms, alertness, when you want to eat, when you get hungry, your cortisol hormones, your melatonin, like I literally could go on because everything functions on one of these clocks. Like in general, like if we're to zoom out and look at the 24-hour clock, like if you're starting from right like an hour or two before you wake up, your body temperature starts to rise. That melatonin hormone that makes you sleepy, it starts to go down. Now you're waking up. You've been awake for an hour or so. You're likely to use the washroom. Cortisol's coming up, like it's waking you up. Your body is managing its blood sugar. You have better immune response. Your alertness is higher. Your muscles are primed for exercise. You're ready to go. And then as we approach the evening, you begin to cool down. Melatonin begins to rise, right? Stomach acid production peaks. Like literally everything is on this clock. Your saliva production slows down. Your growth hormone rises. You go to sleep. Your gut lining repairs. Your skin repairs. You achieve deep sleep. Your body temperature, like literally it is wild when you start to see your body functioning on a clock, right? And it is so important to maintain this for not only your brain and your function in your business, but how it applies to overall health. Now, here is the first big place that we screw up with our circadian rhythms. And we don't even know that we're doing this. So I want you to imagine this. Imagine that we are all living together in North America, and because I'm in Canada, we're going to be on the East Coast, and let's say we're all hanging out in Toronto together, and it's a Friday night, and we're all like, hey guys, let's get on a plane and fly to Vancouver on Friday. And so we fly over and we all experience jet lag, right? And then we have fun, we hang out Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday night, we're like, we got to go back to work. We all get on a flight from Vancouver and fly to Toronto, and we experience that entire jet lag shift again. So if you're imagining the visual on this, we've basically had jet lag on Friday night and jet lag again on Sunday. This is actually what happens in your brain when you shift your sleep and wake time on the weekends relative to the weekdays. So if normally on the weekends or the weekdays, you're getting up at 7 in the morning, and on the weekends, you get up at 9 in the morning, you've essentially just shifted your whole clock 2 hours. And then when you go back to your regular schedule on Monday, you shift it back. It's literally like flying from coast to coast on what the impact it has on your body. Now, here are the problems with shifting your sleep time and your wake up time. And this is basically meaning if you're not going to bed on the weekends at the same time as you do on the weekdays, or you're not waking up at the same time on the weekdays as you do on the weekends, you are giving yourself jet lag. It is called social jet lag because it's our social schedules on the weekend that affect this. It's you staying up late. It's us going out with our friends. It's watching an extra movie or two. It's the, I don't have to wake up. I can sleep in. And we think, well, hey, I'm still getting 8 hours of sleep. How could it possibly impact me that much? It does. Here are the problems with giving yourself social jet lag, right? First of all, we know that it totally throws off your body's internal clock because you're just adjusting to your weekend time zone when we go back to the weekday time zone, right? That's obvious. But your melatonin, the hormone that helps you sleep, it's ramping up later because you've phased your entire circadian rhythm, your body's perception of time forward by going to sleep later on the weekend, waking up later, right? So melatonin is like, okay, so we're going to sleep later. I guess I'll just start producing melatonin later. Problem is you try to go to sleep at regular time on Sunday night and your body doesn't produce melatonin until later. So you end up staring at your ceiling, you have trouble falling asleep, and your brain is still wide awake, right? And it literally feels like you are waking up early on Monday because your brain is still on the other time zone. So what naturally happens? You feel foggy. You have a hard time getting out of bed. You struggle, right? You carry a sleep debt, which basically means you are undersleeping because we need that alarm to get up on Monday because we shifted our body's time zone, so to speak, back, and we feel all groggy. Our body literally has jet lag, right? And here is what blew my mind. Are you ready for this? Did you know that for every 1 hour you stay up later on the weekend, it can take up to 24 hours to recover full cognitive function? Now, picture this. You normally go to bed at 10, but you stayed up till midnight on the weekend. That's 2 nights. So that means it takes 2 days to recover full cognitive function. So if you went back to sleep at a normal time on Sunday night, all of Monday and all of Tuesday, you are going to feel a little foggier than usual. And it will take you to Wednesday. So what happens? Wednesday, you're getting great sleep, right? You're like, this is awesome. And then Friday comes and we do it all again, right? And we are in this cycle of social jet lag, and it is destroying our circadian rhythm and our brain's ability to function normally. And then get this. By the way, this next tip is from a book that I loved. It is called The Circadian Code by Dr. Sachin Panda. He is one of the foremost experts in circadian rhythm biology. I read this and I was like, oh my God, 3 hours. If you are awake more than 3 hours between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. for more than 50 days in a calendar year, you officially fit into the definition of a shift worker. Now, a shift worker has been a style of living that has been identified as a carcinogen by the World Health Organization. And on top of that, if you read this book, the amount of disease, not only just physical disease presence like cancers, like diabetes, but I'm talking about things like mental health disorders, anxiety, overwhelm, irritable bowel syndrome, migraine, headaches. Like the list is wild. Basically anything that most people struggle with has been linked to circadian rhythm disruptions. And that is if you spend 3 hours awake between 10 and 5 more than 50 days a year. So if you spend 1 day per week awake until 1 a.m. in the morning, you are officially categorized as a shift worker, and you put yourself not only at risk in your business for your brain not working, but for some serious long-term health complications. So one of the things I always love to ask is if we are, dealing with like unchecked inflammation, I can't explain my migraines, what is going on? Like, are you a shift worker? Technically, by this definition, right? And this just blew my mind because I would say 95% of people fall into that range, right? And so it's really something we want to start looking at and asking ourselves, like, is the way I am running my life right now working for me? And this is, of course, as always, there's never judgment against what you do and how you do it. I always tell my clients this: my job is to present to you the research. My job is to present to you the facts. My job is to even make some suggestions on what might make you feel better, but it is your life and your brain, and you get to choose however you want to take what I've got to give you. So, and I always, it's fun, right? And if you're like, well, I love that, but that seems like such a big change, I invite you to always look at it as an experiment. Like, could I try it for a week? If it's not terrible, I'll try it for 2 weeks. And if I absolutely hate it, you don't have to do it. But if you're sick and tired of feeling foggy and you really want to feel what it feels like to have an unleashed brain, I really recommend to listen to some of the tips in this episode. So what I want to talk about now are the factors that can actually disrupt your circadian rhythm. So we talked about number 1, which was going to bed and waking up at different times. Number 2, let's talk about light exposure. So light is one of those things that is more than just, something that makes a room bright so that we can live and move around without bumping into things, right? It is information into our brain. Like, we take everything from the color of the light to where the light is. Like, is it right above us? Is it like at eye level? Is it lower than eye level? And then of course, what color is it, right? Is it blue and white, or is it orange, yellow, and red? Like, all of this stuff is giving our brain information and helping us time our circadian rhythm. Because what actually sets our body's internal clock is light from the outside world is one of the factors that cues our brain and constantly gets us to resync our clock. So when our brain sees certain colors and intensities outside in the sky, it goes, oh yeah, it's around noon. Got you. Let's do this set of biological processes, hormones release, body temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, right? And when it sees, yellows and oranges of sunsets and the sun is low in the sky, it goes, I know what this means. This means it's getting ready for bedtime. So let's start getting ready for bed. And if you think back to before electricity existed, we relied on the light for our brain to know what time of day it was, right? Oh, it's the middle of the day. It looks like it's getting dark. It's really dark right now. Maybe we should go to sleep. But with the invention of indoor electricity, it could be daytime in the middle of the night. And our brain only knows the light information that we feed it. And so if we want to foster a healthy circadian rhythm, we want to be able to use this light to help our bodies function, not to work against it, right? And so if we want to regulate our sleep-wake cycles, we need to look outside at different times of the day and be like, how can I replicate that with my indoor light? That is why I am such a huge proponent of getting outdoors as soon as the sun rises, or at least before 10 a.m. Spending 10, 20, 30 minutes outside. This is syncing your body's circadian rhythm and telling it that it's morning. It's time to wake up and feel alert. So if you're groggy, we need to get outside in the morning and actually tell our brains to start waking up. The same thing is if you're having trouble sleeping or going to bed at night, are you feeding your brain lights from your screens and your phones that are telling it should be wide awake, right? If you look back to pre-electricity times, we sat around a campfire and then we turned the campfire out, right? So we want to keep it as dim as possible and a lot of the lights in reds and oranges tones, right? So another thing that really does affect our brain's circadian rhythm is jet lag and business travel, right? So one of the things that we can't really control is where we do need to go for work, right? That is definitely going to throw off our circadian rhythm, but there's 2 tips I can give you for this. Number 1, download the app called Time Shifter. It is an app created in partnership with Dr. Michael Bruce. He wrote the book, The Power of When, all about chronobiology. And you input your airline number. It's really interesting. So that documents your flight and the time zones. And he gives you recommendations based on like caffeine, melatonin, sleep timing, and light, so that your circadian rhythm can shift so that you can have an easier time adjusted to the time zone that you're flying to. So that's really good. The second thing, if you're having a lot of jet lag, it's usually because all of those light inputs and other inputs are thrown off. And one of the big ones that gets thrown off when we travel is the way we eat. And so I didn't know this originally, but the digestion clock, the 24-hour circadian rhythm clock that runs, it's not actually a 24-hour circadian rhythm clock, I should say, but the clock in general, it's a shorter time clock that operates in our gut, is the slowest to adapt. So the best way you can help with your jet lag, if you travel, is actually to start eating on the schedule that you would have followed at home, but on the new time zone. So if you normally ate at 7 a.m. in the morning at home, eat at 7 a.m. in the morning there. It's one of the fastest ways you can actually sync your body when you're traveling. Stress is another huge thing that can affect your circadian rhythm. So as entrepreneurs, like, stress is normal for us. It's not going away. You cannot eliminate it. We need to learn how to be resilient to it, right? So when we talk about stress, the reason it is so disruptive is because when we are under intense pressure or overwhelm, our body releases a hormone. That's a new word. It's hormone and cortisol together. It releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone and it can affect our clock, right? So when we are under stress, it changes our sleep patterns. It makes it harder to fall asleep. It makes it harder to stay asleep. We wake up at that 3 a.m. and our brain goes off and we're like, I'm awake. Like, let's review the to-do list. It makes it, we have those early morning wake ups. So the quality of sleep is not as good. So that stress can really disrupt it, right? And additionally, like, having that much stress on your body increases our brain's arousal. And we know that we want to wind down in the evenings, right? So that arousal generally keeps our brain on edge and prevents us from getting into good quality sleep. And this can lead to insomnia, sleep disorders, all of these things which disrupt circadian rhythm. And most of the time when I have clients that'll come to me and they'll be like, I have insomnia, and they haven't been diagnosed, and then I look at their evening routine and their lifestyle, I almost wonder if they have stress-induced perception of insomnia, meaning like it feels like you can't sleep, but what's really happening is you're just stressed out, right? Diet is another thing that can disrupt the circadian rhythm. So as I mentioned, when we eat has a huge impact on our body, where it diverts its energy, what time our body believes it is. So one of the best things that you can do for your body is actually eat on a regular schedule at specific times. Have your breakfast within a half-hour window, lunch, half-hour window. And I know entrepreneurs are specifically guilty of this. They will completely forget to eat breakfast, and maybe they'll skip lunch, or maybe they'll have their first meal at 2, and then it's 8 a.m., and it's all over the place. And these things can heavily impact your body's ability to regulate its biology. So by constantly eating at different times, it's going to throw that off. So simple tip from this: set up an eating schedule. What time do you want to eat your breakfast? Give yourself a half-hour window and stick to it. What about your lunch? What about your dinner? Right? Like, start really getting these routines in place. Like, you're seeing how well integrated these routines are in our bodies and how we function, right? Exercise is another different one that can affect our circadian rhythm, right? Because think about this. One of the things that helps us go to sleep, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes, is that our body temperature needs to drop in order to go to sleep. So if we are exercising in the evening or the late afternoon, 7, 8, 9 p.m. at night, it is waking our body up. We are producing cortisol. We are increasing our temperature. We are increasing our heart rate, all at times when we want to be calming down. Low heart rate, low blood pressure, low body temperature, right? So exercise is one of those things that when done at the right time can help, but at the wrong time can disrupt. So exercise in the evening can disrupt our circadian rhythm, but exercise in the morning can actually help wake us up and feel much more alert. So these are all things that we are doing with our health or our lifestyle that can absolutely disrupt our circadian rhythm. So let's talk about how to optimize it then. Like, what can we do to really improve the way our body relates to this clock, right? Well, we want to think about sleep quality and quantity. And so what this means is getting a consistent sleep schedule. We talked about this in the beginning, and you creating that unexpected social jet lag for yourself. Now, I want to say we're humans. If you have a night where you got to stay out late or it's somebody's birthday, that's fine. But I always like to ask this question, like if we are throwing off our circadian rhythm and our brain's ability to focus just to watch a movie on the weekend, if it's once in a while, sure. But if it's every weekend and it's throwing us into that shift worker category, we want to just ask if this is the best way to treat our brains long term and if we could do this at a different time of day. If the answer is no, so be it. But I always just want to make sure we're producing or presenting all of the options available, right? So we want to have a consistent sleep schedule. We want to have a sleep-friendly environment. So something that really helps our body cool down. So we want a nice, cool sleeping environment. We want it to be really dark. Like I've had clients before I've had a client who's actually lived across the street from a fire hall, and they had a bright white floodlight on top of the fire hall. And she only had those slat blinds where you they're basically horizontal blinds and they open and close. You know the ones I'm talking about, right? But they only had those. And this floodlight shined in her room all night. And it was phenomenal what an effect it had on her sleep. And as soon as she got blackout curtains, that fixed so much of her energy during the day. So we really need to be thinking about can we make it cool? Can we make it dark, right? Practicing good sleep hygiene, making sure, we're wearing loose clothing and, if we need earplugs because we wake up easily, really looking at a lot of that stuff. And so much of the things we've talked about in earlier episodes about biohacking our bedroom and stuff like that, and making sure that that is optimized. Another thing we can optimize, and we've kind of alluded to a lot of these, but with nutrition, making sure you're eating at consistent times. You're not eating really large meals before bed. You're, keeping a gap between when you want to sleep and your last meal so that your body is not focusing on digesting, but instead focusing on helping you get really good sleep, right? And maintaining an exercise routine that is not within the 2 to 3 hours of bed. I have definitely had clients that if that is the only time they have to exercise, so be it. But I want you to experiment with, if you switched it up, do I sleep better? Do I feel better? It's about an experiment, being willing to be wrong, being willing to be trying something new and seeing how you feel, right? Stress management. If you are feeling constantly stressed out or under pressure, or you can't disconnect or disengage and you need to check your emails all the time, even right up until bedtime, this is likely affecting your circadian rhythm for all the reasons we talked about before, right? So I generally have a bunch of strategies that we can go through in terms of being stress resilient, because the goal is not to eliminate stress, but to become resilient to it. And some of those include strategies you can do in the moment. They're real-time strategies to bring your body down. A lot of those are breath work techniques. There are, strategies that you can do as recovery, meaning you had a really stressful week and maybe you need to do a nervous system reset. I have a podcast episode, maybe 5-10 episodes back. Go look for it, all on nervous system reset days. That is a great way to do a recovery day. And then there's resiliency strategies, right? How can we use cold or exercise or heat and things like that to actually build our capacity for our body to experience stress, right? So that we don't get so set off by smaller stresses on our body. Like if we got an email that was not very friendly or something like that, or a mean comment on Instagram, right? And lastly, a strategy that you can use to optimize your circadian rhythm is optimizing your work-life balance and protecting your personal life against disruptions to your circadian rhythm caused by work. Now, I've worked with many clients before who will, they'll work all day and then they will bustle through family life. And I use that word intentionally because it's like, okay, work is done. Now I got to spend time with the kids and we got to make dinner and now we got to walk the dog and now we got to get the kids to bed and now I got to have my me time and now I got to go to bed. And it's you get the vibe I'm going for, right? And then as soon as they get done with their evening, they're like, and I got to jump back into work for an hour because there's something I didn't get done. And most of the time it's usually not an emergency, meaning like, if I do not get this done, there are consequences to my business. It's not something like that. It's usually just like, well, I didn't get it done during my day, so I want to stay on top of things. So I just ended up, checking in with this email, this client, this funnel, and we do all of these things. And they're really causing our brain to not be able to wind down, right? So looking at what are the time management strategies that you can put into place. Now, I did an episode not too long ago. It was episode number 63 called Bookending Your Day with productivity specialist Amber De La Garza. I would highly recommend going and checking that one out because she talks about different routines you can have to really help you wind down your workday specifically. So she talks about you having a personal routine and a business routine, both an opening and closing or morning and night. And I thought that she talks specifically about an end of day business routine that helps you wind down and really get anything that didn't get done onto your schedule for another day so that these things don't bleed into your evening. So I would highly recommend going and checking that out. That's episode 63, and it will it'll guide you through a whole process to really help with your time management. And I've used a lot of the tips from there, and so have my clients, and it's worked very well. So circadian rhythms. Pretty neat, hey? It's fantastic when you look about it. You're like, oh my gosh, light can influence my circadian rhythm. Temperature can influence it, whether I'm warming up or cooling down. Caffeine, of course, we didn't get to talk about caffeine, but caffeine's an obvious one. Like if it can really help you feel alert, and it doesn't work so well when you have caffeine in the evening. Exercise, food, like all of these things can affect your circadian rhythm. And if we want to really optimize and unlock our brains so we can have success in our business, we want to work with our biology and stop fighting it, right? Stop throwing off our natural rhythm. And it is going to be so important for optimizing our energy and productivity, because if we want to show up at our desks and we want our brains working clearly, and if we want to feel focused, and if we want to make fast decisions, and we want to be productive so that our work is not spilling over in the evening, we need to start with the thing that is going to make the biggest difference, and that is your circadian rhythm. And I would love for you to re-listen to this episode. I don't even have a count on how many different tips, hacks, tools that I have shared within this episode. Take the ones that are resonating the most and apply them. Track your progress, right? See how it's affecting your energy. Notice if you're still getting that midday business slump, or if you're feeling exhausted at night and crashing and falling asleep instantly the second your head hits the pillow, right? And like I said, if you want to really look into circadian rhythms and get as obsessed with them as I am, the book called The Circadian Code by Dr. Sachin Panda is going to be such a good one. Now, if you love all of this stuff and you're just like, I can see where I'm going wrong in all these places, but there's a lot of tips, and how do I measure them, and how do I know what's working, then I would love for you to book a call with me to talk about the CEO Sleep Lab. That is my program where I help 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs really optimize their sleep so that they can show up to their businesses and have really successful days. And in that, there is an entire module on how your circadian rhythm functions, and it puts all of the information I've given you in a step-by-step simple format to follow that you can test. And I will show you exactly how to use wearable trackers like Fitbits and Oura Rings to tell if what you're doing is working and if your circadian rhythm is in check, right? So it is a very in-depth program that I am going to encourage you to check out. I've put so much heart and work into it after working with clients for years, finding the things that have worked the best for them and distilled it into a super simple training program and coaching program with me on your side. The videos are short. They're usually 10 to 15 minutes or less so that you can watch it, apply it, and start feeling more well-rested and having your day start ready to go and not having to boot up your brain and get into your day. So if that is interesting to you, head to TanessaShears.com/call. And I will talk to you guys next week. And I hope you have a great week playing with all of the fun things to optimize your circadian rhythm. I'll talk to you next time. Bye. Learn something new in this episode or feel inspired to take action? I'd love for you to share it with a friend and leave a review. Your review will help one more entrepreneur feel healthier, more energized, and focused. If you feel good about helping a friend or a fellow business owner you've never even met, you are my kind of people. I'm excited to help you become limitless in the coming episodes.